So we have something that starts looking like a chat application, but there's a lot more work to be done in order to make this a real chat application. But in order to do that, I think it's time to start structuring our code a bit better. Right now we have a gateway that's kind of both responsible right here for actual domain logic and also responsible for communication between frontend and backend. We don't want that. We want the gateway to be responsible only for the communication. So we're going to add something called services. Now, if you've seen previous videos of mine, you know I'm a huge fan of the clean architecture, and Nest is doing pretty much the same thing that I'm used to. They have dependency injection and they have injectable services. The same with Angular, by the way. So I think that's why I'm such a huge fan of these two frameworks right here. Now, in order to get to where I'm at right now, you go to Overview, under Documentation, and you go to Providers. You scroll down and you find the services. And this is kind of what we're going to build this lesson. The idea with the service for us is that we want a place to take care of the domain logic, and it's also going to be the service that's going to end up communicating with an actual database later on. So we need this service. Let's go and create it. I'm going to jump to the backend right here. Now I could just start creating services by making the folders and the files myself, but why not just use the CLI? So I'll write Nest right here. That's the CLI tool that we have available for Nest. And if you notice, there's actually right here an idea about how you can make a service. I want to generate this, so I'll write Nest, G for generate, S for service, and that's how you create something new, a new file of some sort, and this is of course a service that we are trying to create. Now, I also want to add this in a specific folder, and I'm going to show you a small trick right here. Let's just say chat, that's this folder right here that I'm pointing at, and then /shared, right? Then I'm inside with the shared folder, and then one more because I want the service to be called chat. Like this. Let's try and execute this to show you a small problem we're going to get. Notice it actually creates, under chat, it creates the shared, and under that one it creates a chat folder. I don't want that. I want it to be put directly under the shared right here. So let's just move it just to show you, like this. Now that's kind of a nuisance if you really want to start using this, that you have to kind of move it manually afterwards. So we don't want that. Let's just try and do another command just to show you. Remember, it's updating the module, so we need to clean everything out right here to show you the next version. There we go. So let's try and do the same command, but add one more thing, and that's --flat. That actually means right here, this small command, that we don't want to generate a folder for the final guy right here. So it's going to be placed directly under shared. Now, if you want to have a list of all of this, you can actually go and read about the CLI. Again, under their documentation, CLI, usage, there's a huge list of things you can do, and there's actually documentation about all of these different guys as well. So go and check it out if you want to. That's a lot about the good CLI and how to use it. So I'm going to run this command now with the flattened there, and that means it's not going to generate that extra folder, which means it's going to put it directly under the shared folder like I expected. Happy days. If you go to the chat service, you'll notice that it's an injectable class. It's nothing else, but that means it's actually available now throughout this project, which is perfect. Now we can start adding different things inside this method right here, so we can move domain logic from the gateway into the service. So let's start doing that, and just follow along. There's a lot of things going on right here. The first thing I want to move is the actual data. I don't want the data to be here, and to be honest, I don't even want it in the service, but let's just put it there for now until we actually start working with databases. So now I just moved my data logic, or my domain logic, in here. I'm going to end up with some messages and some clients. Sweet. Let's go back to the gateway. It seems the first thing I'll be missing is a way to push messages. So I need the service to have a method to add messages to the queue right here, or the list. So let's start out by actually creating a constructor in here. I'll make a constructor, because I need a constructor so I can dependency inject that service. So I'll do a private, I'll do a chat service, and it's of the type chat service. Now that was misspelled here and there, we'll fix that. Chat service, there we go. Now I have a chat service available. Now Lint doesn't want me to have that new line, so let's remove it. There we go. And also it complains about this guy. There we go. So now with the chat service available, I can start creating methods everywhere where it's actually not communication specific, it's actually domain specific. And in this case, adding the message to the stack or the list of messages is not communication. That's actually domain logic. So I'll say this for the service. I'll say chat service, and I'll say add message. Like this. Let's just make that simple for now, and we'll just push that message in here. I'll just copy the final code that we had before. I'll take that code, I'll cut it so I have it in memory, or in the clipboard. I'll paste it in here, and then I'll push that message in here. That's all I had to do. And as a final thing, I just want to explain that this method is void. So every time I see something with emit, it means it's communication. The rest of it needs to go into the service. So let's just make this into a void, by the way, because I'm actually not using this return anyway. Let's just get rid of that as well, just to clean up a bit of mess right here. Get rid of that as well. Now it looks very clean. So it seems when I'm adding a nickname right here, I also need to kind of add a client. So let's just try and create add client as well on the service. So I'll say this chat service, add client. There we go. Paste in that information right here. It seems I need the ID and the nickname. So I'll paste that in there. And I'm just going to cut this for now because I want to again use it inside this guy instead. So let's just create that method, add client. For those of you who know about CRUD, this is pretty much just setting up our CRUD. Create, read, update, delete. But for now, I'm just going to add the things that I actually need. I'll explain in a second why this is valuable to have a service like this. I'll go back. There we go. Now we have that client. And we also need a way to get the clients, it seems. Okay, let's try and go and figure that one out. I can see I need this to get the clients. We built that earlier. So let's just go and make a new method right here. Say this dot service dot get clients, like this, to get all clients. Create the method, put it in here. I'll return that array. And that's going to be actually a string array. And again, all of this I know, of course, since we already built all of this code. So I'm just moving it around. There we go. Now the get clients is ready. And we can do the same now. Reuse this command right here to get all clients. And actually notice it's also here. We can reuse it here as well in the next line. Again, let's clean up a little bit. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. We don't need it anymore. And then let's go and see for the all messages right here. We also need a way to get messages. So let's just create that method as well. We'll say this.chatService.get messages. By the way, it's Alt Enter right here, and then or Option Enter on a Mac, and then you get to create get methods, and then you can just enter and you get it in here automatically. Now this is also just going to be a string array. We return, and it's very easy this time. We're just going to return the actual all messages from the top right there. There we go. Now we have that one available as well. Back to the gateway. What else are we needing? Now we can get messages. We can get clients again right here. We need the delete still. That seems to be the one we're missing. And again, let's just get rid of another log right here. If we need them later, we can put them back in. The final one we need seems to be the delete. We Alt Enter, create the delete client. And in here, what do we need to do? Well, we need to say this.clients.delete, and then we pass in that ID, and we are done. And let's just make this into a void so it knows the return type. And I think we are pretty much there. We have all the things up and running. Now, again, what did we actually do? Well, we just cleared out a lot of the domain logic now. So the chat service takes care of all that logic. And later on, you're going to thank me for that because it's going to grow this domain area right here. And we're going to need that to be a separate set of code in order to be able to actually... So what did we actually do? Well, we cleaned up everything. Now notice the chat service takes care of all the domain specific stuff, and the chat gateway takes care of all the server emitting and the client emitting that we need to kind of do in order to communicate with the front end. So that should be it. Let's try and see if the application is still running, and if that is the case, I feel we should be happy. We have this guy, we'll send a message. There we go, we'll just refresh this. We have another guy, and he sends a message. And there we go, everything is still working as it's supposed to. So that's it. Now we have a service available. And again, the service is there to kind of open up for the possibilities to move our domain logic into the service. Another reason we have the service, which is really neat, if you want to build a REST API later on, you can reuse this service inside that REST API and actually just create a controller and just use the exact same method that we're using in the gateway. So that's really, really neat. You don't have to rewrite all that code if you need to later on create this REST API with the same service. So that's it for this lesson. See you next time. Have fun.